If you spend any time in downtown Portland, you know the problems. Homelessness, open fentanyl use, boarded up and vacant retail fronts, an anemic downtown office market with one of the highest office vacancy rates in the nation, and a feeling that it's going to take a major effort to bring us out of it. So Governor Kotek brought together a panel of high-profile stakeholders to try to figure it out. The governor is co-chair of a task force to save Portland's economic future. The other co-chair, Dan McMillan, CEO of The Standard, which occupies the downtown office building where Portland's historic weather beacon sits. Dan McMillan, thank you for joining Eye on Northwest Politics.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Ken.
Why did you decide to take this on?
Probably an appropriate question. I think about that, and I think about the history and the legacy that The Standard has in the city. So over a century, we've been providing community support and leadership here in the places where we do business, work, and play every day. And this is no different than the need that the cities had over time. We've gone through a couple world wars, we've gone through the Great Depression, we've gone through the Great Recession, the pandemic, and the city's in a place right now where we all need to band together and do some serious work.
Yeah, let's take a quick look at the people on the task force. There are 47 people on the task force. We mentioned the governor. There's Mayor Wheeler, Multnomah County Chair Jessica Vega Peterson, DA Mike Schmidt, major downtown Portland property owners and managers, social service providers, members of Oregon's congressional delegation, even the Portland Trailblazers are involved in this. How do you manage that large a collection of people and diverse interests and get anything done with this task force?
Yeah, it's we've set up a structure where most of the work of this task force, and I should probably a caveat here, neither the governor or I are really fans of task force, blue ribbon committees, if you will, because we're not here to talk about the problems. I think you said in your opening, people know what the problems are. It's time to get some momentum, take some action, and have a bias towards action. But we set it up in a structure where we have 5 committees looking at a value proposition for the city, homelessness, crime, safety, livability, and the tax structure and services around the city. Those 5 things are the primary things that people are worried about and talking about. And there's also some good work that's already going on. So those committees will come alongside that good work, amplify it, help push things along, provide additional resources, but all the work will get done in the committees. It will also engage more people than just those listed on the task force, experts in certain topics like taxation and things like that.
Time is of the essence here because people see the condition of the city now and they want some fast action. So is this structure going to be able to enable quicker action than we've seen in the past?
Short answer is that is very much our intention. So the communication that we did in our kickoff on Tuesday, both the governor and I said we have to have a bias towards action, meaning we're going to have 3 meetings between now and December. So this is a 4-month sprint. And the work that's going on, we won't wait to take action until the end of that sprint. Anything that's easy to identify and move on now, we're going to move on.
There are a couple of omissions that stand out to me anyway. Prominent downtown developer Greg Goodman, people like Jordan Schnitzer, not on the task force. Were they and folks in the downtown development and property ownership community approached to be on this task force?
Yeah, the selection of the task force, as you mentioned before, crosses a broad kind of spectrum of public and private and service organizations, education, and chose those leaders for a specific reason. That does not mean that others won't be engaged in the work. I've actually had conversations with Mr. Goodman about this personally, and so we will be engaging a lot more than what you see on that list in terms of getting the work done.
There is some skepticism about this, as you are well aware. Here's what one downtown business owner had to say about the task force.
That was just one big eye roll. I'm like, stop talking already, do something. They've been talking about it forever, it seems like, and nothing's happening. So I want some action.
What's your response to that?
I agree. We're not going to talk about it. The talking is, we've been talking about it for a while. And the bias towards action that she just communicated sounds very much like the tenor of the conversation that we had on Tuesday.
You had your first meeting last week. How many people showed up? What were you able to accomplish in terms of setting up the parameters of this task force?
A lot of that is just kicking that off and understanding structure, understanding leadership. We did about an hour of what I would call foundational data for the work. One big part of that data is the fact that our city, our county, the most populous in the state, are shrinking And that should be an alarm for everybody, because the long-term implications of that are very serious. And it's also something that's unusual for other cities our size that are going through this.
Downtown office vacancy rates, they're running higher than 31%. That means almost a third of the available downtown office space is empty now. How can we solve that problem?
Yeah, that is a challenging one, and it's sometimes difficult to compare vacancy rates, but you'll notice that a lot of that is office vacancy, and Portland has a higher concentration of office vacancy than some of the other cities, and so you have a little higher vacancy rate in the city. Visioning for what the city looks like and its purposes long term, I think incorporates residences, it incorporates services, it incorporates dining and shopping as well as business, but I think the mix is going to need to change over time.
During the pandemic, you moved the majority of your employees out of your downtown building into Hillsborough. Downtown safety was one of the reasons cited, along with the opportunity for remote work. Have you or are you bringing back any of those employees into downtown Portland, especially since this is something that the mayor wants?
Yes, so over a year ago, we reopened our offices downtown. We have an operation in Hillsborough as well that was opened as well. And our people are back to work. Now, they're not back to work in the same way, meaning that we are in the office together doing the things that require us to be together, and having the flexibility to work elsewhere as well. And we have a lot of hybrid work that goes on today. That model has dramatically changed, and over time, our decisions around that have actually created competitive advantage for our company in terms of the ability to hire talent anywhere, and we've attracted a great deal of fantastic talent to the Standard.
However, you still have a lot fewer people working downtown than you did before.
On any given day, that's true, and we're also drawing a lot more people to the city than we did before, because we have people flying in, staying in hotels, eating in restaurants for meetings. All my board meetings are in person, all of our officer meetings are in person, so we have a lot of people coming to downtown, but just not in the same way.
For that vacant office space, is conversion to some other use a viable option?
Potentially, and each city is a little different and the equation is a little different. We've actually signed up some tenants in some of our buildings over the last 2 years, believe it or not. That might be hard to believe, but that's happened. And whether that office can be converted to other sort of office-like occupancy is yet to be seen, but I think the conversion to a very different mix is going to take some time.
Got about 30 seconds left here, but you alluded to this in your previous answer. We are starting to see some signs of improvement in downtown Portland. A lot of the outdoor festivals came back this year. What's your assessment of where we are as compared to where we were?
Well, by nearly every measure, compared to 2020, things are better. And I think one of the opening sort of messages in our kickoff was our intent is to come alongside the good work that's already happening at the city, at the county, and elsewhere to help. And this is very much a collaborative partnership in the work that we're doing. And we think that theme in terms of the work itself is going to be very important.
How optimistic are you that this task force can move things forward and bring Portland at least closer back to where it was before the pandemic?
I do think we need some optimism. And I, just anecdotally, in the last 2.5 weeks, the number of people, dozens and dozens, that have reached out to me personally, people I know and a lot of people I don't know, I'm just sort of stunned by the degree of care for our community. And the most common refrain I've heard is, let me know how I can help. And that's over and over and over.
Dan McMillan from the Standard, thank you very much for being here on Eye on Northwest Politics, and best of luck with getting something done with the task force.
Thank you. My pleasure.